parents refused to care for my twins while I was in emergency surgery, saying that I was a nuisance and a burden since they had tickets to see Elton John with my sister. So I called a nanny from the hospital bed, cut all family ties, and ended my financial support to them. 2 weeks later, I heard a knock. Imagine being in a hospital bed, your body racked with pain, knowing you might not survive the night. Now imagine calling your parents for help, only to hear them say you're a burden and they'd rather go to a concert. That's exactly what happened to me, Natasha Wilson, on Christmas Eve. I was 33 years old, alone with my 2-year-old twins, Ethan and Emily, facing emergency surgery, and my parents, my own flesh and blood, chose Elton John tickets over me and my kids. But what happened next didn't just break me. It changed my life forever. Let me take you back to that night. It was Christmas Eve at Las Vegas Medical Center. The sterile smell of antiseptic stung my nose, and the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows on the pale walls. I was lying there, a widow, my abdomen screaming in agony from internal bleeding. A cruel twist of fate tied to the grief and stress I'd carried since my husband, James, died 6 months earlier in a car accident. My twins, Ethan and Emily, were playing quietly in the corner of the room, their tiny hands clutching toys, unaware that their mom might not make it through the night. The nurse, Valerie, was checking my vitals, her gentle presence the only comfort in that cold, lonely space. But the real pain, the kind that cuts deeper than any knife, came from the video call I just made to my parents. I'd always been the afterthought in my family. My younger sister, Jessica, was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. Growing up, I'd watch them shower her with praise for every little thing, her school plays, her dance recitals, even the time she got a C+ on a test, and they called it effort worth celebrating. Me? I graduated college with honors, and they barely looked up from their coffee because Jessica had landed a role in a local commercial that same weekend. When I married James, they complained the wedding venue was too far from their house. 2 hours was apparently an unbearable trek. And when Ethan and Emily were born, they visited once, stayed for 20 minutes, and left because the babies were too fussy. I'd spent my whole life chasing their approval, trying to prove I was worth something, but I was always the shadow to Jessica's spotlight. That night in the hospital, I wasn't just fighting for my life. I was fighting for my kids. I'd exhausted every option. Friends were out of town, neighbors had their own holiday plans, and I had no one else to turn to, so I called my parents, my voice trembling, begging them to watch. Ethan and Emily, while I went under the knife, my mother's response still echoes in my head. Don't you dare ask us to cancel our plans again. We've had these Elton John tickets for months. She yelled it, her voice sharp and furious, like I'd asked her to sacrifice her entire existence instead of miss one night out. Then my dad chimed in, his tone cold and cutting. You're becoming a real nuisance and burden, Natasha. We're retired now. We deserve to enjoy our lives without your constant problems. I sat there stunned, clutching my phone with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. A burden. That's what I was to them. Not a daughter in crisis, not a mother desperate to keep her kids safe. Just a nuisance interrupting their Christmas Eve with Jessica and their precious concert. The tears came silently, dripping onto the thin hospital blanket, and I felt something crack inside me. Not just from the physical pain, but from the realization that the people who raised me didn't care if I lived or died. Here's the kicker. I'd been supporting them financially for 3 years. Ever since they took early retirement, I sent them $2,500 every month. No questions asked to help with their mortgage and expenses. Even after James died, when I was drowning in grief and struggling to pay my own bills, I kept sending it. I'd dip into my savings, skip my own comforts, all because I believed family sticks together. I'd even increased the amount recently when they complained about inflation, thinking I was doing the right thing, being the daughter they could count on. How naive was I? There I was, bleeding internally, possibly dying, and they couldn't miss one concert to help me. The irony was suffocating. Valerie, the nurse, must have seen the devastation on my face because she gently squeezed my shoulder. My friend Olivia is a professional nanny who specializes in childhood trauma, she said softly. Let me call her for you. Her kindness hit me like a lifeline in a storm. I nodded, barely able to speak, and whispered, yes. Please call her. The twins were still too young to understand. Ethan stacking blocks, Emily hugging her stuffed giraffe. But I knew what was at stake. They'd already lost their dad. They couldn't lose me too. And if the worst happened, I couldn't leave them with people who saw them as burdens. That moment, with pain searing through my body and disappointment crushing my heart, I made a choice. I wasn't just asking for help with the twins. I was starting to cut the poisonous ties to the people who'd raised me but never truly loved me. As I hung up the phone, memories flooded back. Every time I'd been overlooked. Every time I'd swallowed my hurt to keep the peace. My childhood was a montage of those moments. Jessica's birthday parties where I was stuck cleaning up, family vacations where I carried the bags while she got the window seat. The way my parents bragged about her to everyone while I faded into the background. James had been my anchor through it all. "We'll build our own family," he'd say, his voice warm and steady, one that knows how to love. And we did until that drunk driver stole him away, leaving me to face this alone. When Olivia arrived, she was a godsend. She walked in with this calm, confident energy, her dark hair tied back, her smile soft but sure. She knelt down to the twins' level, introducing herself with a gentleness that put them at ease. Ethan handed her a block, and Emily giggled as Olivia pretended to nibble her giraffe. "How much will this cost?" I asked Valerie, worry creeping in. Medical bills were already piling up. James's insurance had limits, and I was stretched thin. "Don't worry about that now," Valerie said. "Let's focus on getting you ready for surgery." But I couldn't stop thinking about it. That 25% chance I was supposed to send my parents next week, it could pay for Olivia for my kids' safety. That thought lit a spark in me. A flicker of self-worth I hadn't felt in years. As the hospital staff prepped me for surgery, I asked Valerie for my phone one last time. My hands shook as I typed 2 messages. The first was to my bank. Cancel all future automatic transfers to my parents' account. The second was to them. I will no longer be providing financial support. My children and I deserve better than being your afterthoughts. Don't contact me again. Sending those messages felt like shedding a weight I'd carried my whole life. As they wheeled me toward the operating room, the pain and fear were still there, but something else crept in: freedom. The surgery went well, but it left me weak, fragile like a glass figurine ready to shatter. I spent 5 days in the hospital, drifting in and out of consciousness, the beeping monitors a constant reminder of how close I'd come to the edge. Olivia was incredible. She stayed with the twins in my room during the day, her voice as soothing as she played with them and took them to my apartment at night. One lucid moment, I grabbed my phone and saw the notifications. 27 missed calls. Dozens of texts from my parents and Jessica. I braced myself and scrolled through. My parents' messages were predictable. First, confusion. "What's this about stopping the payments?" Then, anger. "How dare you do this to us?" Then, desperation. "The mortgage is due, Natasha. We need that money." Not one asked about my surgery or the twins. My dad's final text was the clincher. "You can't just cut us off like this. We've planned a cruise next month, and the tickets are non-refundable." A cruise. That's what mattered to them. Jessica's texts were different. "Mom and Dad said you had some minor procedure. What's going on? Why are they freaking out about money?" It hit me. They'd lied to her, downplayed my emergency to save face. Still groggy, I typed out the truth. The surgery, the risk, their refusal to help. Her reply came fast. "Oh my God, Natasha. I had no idea it was an emergency. They told me you were being dramatic about a routine checkup. I would have watched the twins if I'd known. I'm so sorry." I believed her. Jessica wasn't cruel. She'd just been molded by the same parents who'd sidelined me. Maybe this could wake her up to who they really were. When I got discharged, I was a mess. Physically weak, emotionally raw. But I had decisions to make. I hired Olivia part-time to help with the twins during my recovery. I called a lawyer to draft a will, naming a trusted friend as their guardian. No way would it be my parents. And I blocked their numbers, letting only Jessica keep limited contact as I figured out if she meant her apologies. That $2,500 a month I'd sent them? It was a third of my income as a graphic designer. Without it weighing me down, I could afford Olivia. Maybe even rebuild the emergency fund James' death had drained. That first night back home, lying in my bed with the twins asleep across the hall, I felt everything at once. Guilt for defying my parents, fear of managing alone, but also this quiet, growing sense of self-respect. Then Jessica texted, "I just fought with Mom and Dad about how they treated you. I'm at a hotel tonight. Can we talk tomorrow?" Maybe I wasn't as alone as I thought. 2 weeks later, I was still healing. The incision site throbbed if I moved too fast, but I was getting stronger. Olivia came every morning, her presence a steady comfort as I worked from home. My graphic design clients were patient, letting me ease back in, and I was grateful for the flexibility. Jessica visited twice, bringing meals, lasagna one day, soup the next, and playing with the twins. At first, our talks were awkward, like we were strangers relearning each other. But one night, as Ethan and Emily stacked blocks, she opened up. "They always made it seem like you distanced yourself from us," she said, her voice low. "I never saw how they pushed you away. I saw a new Jessica that night. Not the spoiled sister I'd envied, but someone starting to question the lies we'd both been fed." Then came the knock I'd half expected. Through the peephole, I saw my parents, Mom clutching her designer purse, Dad with his arms crossed, impatience carved into his face. My heart pounded, but I cracked the door. "What do you want?" I asked, steadier than I felt. "Natasha, darling, we've been so worried," Mom started, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "You haven't answered our calls. We needed to make sure you and the twins were okay." "We're fine," I said. "If that's all it's not," Dad cut in, pushing the door slightly. "We need to talk about this financial nonsense. The bank called about our mortgage, and we had to use our cruise savings." I couldn't believe it. "No." "How are you?" "No." "Are the kids okay?" "Just money." "I told you I'm done," I said. "I meant it." "But sweetie," Mom whined, "we depend on that money. We adjusted our lifestyle because you committed to helping us." "Committed?" I snapped. "I sent it out of guilt, while you couldn't even watch my kids during surgery." Dad's face hardened. "That's not fair. We had plans." "Plans more important than my life?" I shot back. "The doctor said I might not survive." "Did you even ask?" Their silence screamed the truth. "We made one mistake," Mom whispered, all dramatic. "Are you punishing us?" "This isn't punishment," I said, calm washing over me. "It's consequence. I've spent my life begging for your love. And when I needed you most, you picked a concert." Emily wandered in, then holding her giraffe. Mom cooed, "There's my grandbaby." Grandma brought presents. But Emily backed away, confused by these strangers. "I think you should go," I said. "I'll reach out if I'm ready." "But the money," Dad began, "isn't your concern anymore?" I finished shutting the door. The next morning they were back with Aunt Patty, the family peacemaker. "Natasha, be reasonable." She called through the door I wouldn't open. "Your parents are struggling." "They managed before I helped them," I replied. "They retired early knowing their savings weren't enough." Mom's voice broke in. "We counted on you. We've canceled our cruise, and we might lose the house." It was so clear now. They'd twisted my temporary help into a lifelong promise. "I'm recovering and raising 2 kids," I said. "This is over." I walked away from their knocking. That day, Dad sent a family-wide email claiming I'd abandoned them after all their sacrifices. He left out their concert choice, painting me as the villain, but it backfired. Cousin Michael replied, "Didn't you just buy a boat, Uncle Robert and Aunt Diana that diamond bracelet at Thanksgiving?" Others messaged me for the real story. Even Aunt Patty called, shocked. They said it was a minor procedure. I didn't know. Jessica and I wrote one response. "I had emergency surgery with risks. My parents chose concert tickets over my kids. I'm focusing on recovery now." The support was overwhelming. Michael's wife brought meals. A cousin offered free babysitting. Jessica spent weekends with us, bonding with the twins. Valerie connected me to a widow's support group. My first Zoom meeting felt like coming home. Meanwhile, my parents' world crumbled. Jessica found out they'd taken a second mortgage for that boat, banking on my money forever. "They're not broke," she said. "Just overspent. They could sell stuff." Their desperate calls faded as I built a new life, not from duty, but love. A month later, Jessica called. They got a foreclosure notice. 60 days to pay or lose the house. Their retirement funds? Gone. Spent on the boat and a bad investment. That night, they texted, begging. Mom admitting, "We thought you'd cave after a week." It enraged me. They'd never respected my boundaries. But my life was blooming. The support group introduced me to Diana, a real estate agent and widow who helped me sell my apartment and buy a house. I started designing memorial websites, a side gig born from James's memory, giving me purpose. Then my parents showed up again, spreadsheet in hand. "We need 144,000, Dad said, desperate. "Sell the boat," I suggested. "We'd lose money," he argued. "The timeshare? Bad market," Mom said. "Those are our luxuries." "Luxuries you can't afford," I replied. "We could with your help," Dad pressed. "What have you done for me?" I asked. The twins ran in, and Mom reached for Emily, who hid. "They don't know you," I said. "You chose that." "We'll lose everything," Mom whispered. "I lost James," I said. "We survived. You will too." 3 months post-surgery, they sold their house, downsized to a condo, sold the boat and timeshare at a loss. Jessica said they blamed me publicly, but I didn't care. The truth won out. Family rallied around me. Diana helped me buy a 3-bedroom home. My business grew. I found community, neighbors, play dates, Jessica as a real sister. 6 months later, Mom sent a letter apologizing. "I was jealous of your strength. We failed you. I'm sorry." They'd restructured their lives. Dad worked part-time. They lived simply. Jessica said therapy was changing them, especially after Dad's health scare. A year later, I met them at a cafe. They looked different, humbler. Dad cried, "I've been a terrible father." Mom said therapy helped. I shared twin photos, not promising forgiveness, but listening. "Can we know our grandchildren someday?" Dad asked. "If you prove it with actions," I said. Walking away, I felt peace, not obligation, but the strength of a mother who'd claimed her worth. If this story hit you, if you've ever fought alone or set boundaries to protect your family, please like, share, and subscribe. Comment your thoughts or experiences below. Your support keeps these stories alive. Thank you for watching.